Okay.
Even though I've got the sticker on my screen saying record.
Ah.
Okay.
All right. Okay. John, do you see my slide?
Yes.
My
Single slide,
projector?
yeah.
All right, everyone. So we have an intention for today's call, and we're going to jump right in. So I got a new computer here. I'm still working my way through it. How's that for not being cause in the matter, huh? It's the computer's fault. It's technology. Okay. So I want to set up the context. You will remember that we said the context is decisive. So the context of our calls is to fulfill the promises of this 9-month engagement. So although we're on a 90-minute webinar, it's part of a larger picture. It's part of a 9-month engagement. And in a few moments, John's going to remind us, give us the big picture. So inside this 9-month engagement, the Leader Circle, John and I, and Standard Insurance, we have 2 promises. One is that you'll consistently operate as a high-performance team. We're not saying you're not a high-performance team. We're not saying that at all. It's about how do you consistently elevate yourself like an Olympic athlete, operate at that level. And then the other thing is that you transform into a sales culture with a customer-centric approach to business. So that's the background of our work together. And today's conversation, we have 2 intentions. One is we're going to revisit and deepen the distinctions and tools that we introduced to you on January 14th and 15th at the work session. And the second intention is to expand your capacity to operate as a high-performance team. So, as John said at the top of this, we do have some PowerPoint slides. We do have quite a few PowerPoint slides. However, this is not a presentation from John and I to you. From time to time, we're going to stop. From time to time, we might call on your name, or we might invite you to share what's opening up for you. All right. Anyone have anything before we continue? And if you do, just speak right up, okay? Take yourselves off mute and speak right up. Thank you. All right. John's going to give us an overview of the entire engagement.
So, overview of our entire engagement. The context of this engagement is to make a lasting and positive impact on Standard Insurance's culture. We've named the Standard Insurance and Leaders Circle engagement Driving Our Success. What driving our success looks like. It's a 9-month engagement. We've already done the cultural assessment report, the one-on-one confidential interviews, and we attended and audited your Looking Under the Hood session in Winnipeg in November. Also, the high performance team and critical success factors surveys that you did online, we got the results of all of those. The total period that we'll be together overall, including these webinars that are mixed in, is about 10 days of training and development over the 9-month period. We also just held on the 27th and 28th of January, a strategic planning session with the senior leadership team, where we intend to help you create and deliver on a big game. Assignments and practices to ensure all TLC's training and development makes a difference on the court, and that's part of what these webinars are designed to do. Future training sessions. Training sessions for everyone. Now, these are the webinars that we're talking about. February 27th, today is the first one, and you can see there's a total of 5 running into July. And then April 30th and May 1st, I hope this isn't new information for people, but maybe it is. April 30th and May 1st, there's an intention to have an off-site work session in Kenora. Brian and I will come out and spend that 2 days with you. Future training sessions now, or strategic discovery sessions. These are a little bit different. This is the actual working sessions for the senior leadership team that come from the work that we did in the strategic discovery session. They have specific measurable goals that they're to achieve over a period of time. And we get together every month to have a look at where we're at, what's missing, if anything, what needs to be put in, and how are we as far as staying on track with our strategic intentions. So we have those meetings set up. The first one is going to be a little bit longer, approximately 3 to 4 hours. And then on April 2nd, then May 3rd, June 4th, July 2nd, and August 6th. And I believe at this point, all of those Marcia has put into people's calendars. So you should all have invitations for these events.
Anything for anyone on the overall engagement before we move forward? Okay. All right. Now, we want to say a little bit about, might give you an opportunity to check in with your self-assessment. You'll remember when we were together in person, we started off on January 14th and 15th. We had you assess yourself. The context there is this engagement, the work that we're doing with you is all designed to be self-generative. So it's not like John and I are the teachers or you have to turn something into us. This 9-month engagement is you generating yourself to elevate your performance. So at the top of this call, we just want to give you an opportunity to take a moment and literally pull out a piece of paper and write down the following self-assessment on your performance so far. Now remember, you're on video, so I can see you moving and writing or not writing. And we're inviting you to write on a scale of 1, 1 being low, 5, 5 being high. Rate yourself on the following. And these are different questions than we've given you before. How much value are you generating for yourself out of participating in this engagement? Now, what do I mean by that? If you look all the way back, John just gave you an overview of the engagement, all the way back to the 3 days when we were together last November, all the way back to January 14th, 15th, all the way back to the strategic session that John did with 8 or 9 of the senior leadership team members. How much value do you say you're generating for yourself out of participating in this engagement? 1 is low, 5 is high. Next question, how much risk have you been taking on a scale of 1 to 5? Another way of saying it, have you been in your comfort zone for the most part, or are you out of your comfort zone? I'm not only talking about on the webinar. I'm not only talking about when you're together with us on January 14th, 15th. If you look back all the way since we began this engagement, how much risk have you been taking? Next question, how invested have you been in the learning and success of the whole group? Not only on today's call, not only when we're together in person, but how invested have you been in the learning of the success of the whole group for the entire engagement? And then lastly, has your self-assessment changed since we began this engagement? Do you see that I'm about where I was when we were together in January? That would be no change. Or yeah, it has changed. I've gone up. Or yes, it has changed. I've gone down. Okay, so we want to pause here. I want to hear from 2 or 3 people. How did you respond to the self-assessment? And what would you like to share? What are you getting? So please take yourself off mute and just speak right up, and we'll want to hear from a couple of 3 of you.
Everybody's sitting around the board table in Kenora looking at each other saying, no, you go first. Somebody should go first. Somebody needs to speak up.
I can go first. I gave myself a 3 on the first one. I think I've gone down slightly since the last time, not necessarily intentionally. Just sort of got caught up in everything and the holidays and whatnot. The risk factor, I actually gave myself, I think, a relatively low score of the 2. And again, that's more driven since the last time we got together. I sort of did a slash with a 3 from the very beginning. So obviously I've got to pick up my game a little bit since the last time we were together.
All right.
I did give myself a 4 on the group learning. We have had a number of discussions, and I'm certainly open to everybody that if they want to discuss anything, or if there's any way that I can help, I'm fully engaged on that.
Uh-huh.
And then I would say that that my self-assessment has changed since we began. It's a yes. Can it be better? Yeah, I think so. But it's certainly improved.
Great, Gary. Thanks. And I appreciate you jumping right out and going first. Thank you. Who else?
That's Kelly from Dryden. I can go.
Great, Kelly. Thank you.
For question one, for how much value, I think my value has gone up as we see like just the active listening or genuine listening.
Authentic listening?
Listening, sorry.
Yeah.
Debbie and Nadine and I have held our own meetings about it and kind of holding ourselves accountable for doing that to anybody that we're talking to in the office, including each other, and it definitely makes you more aware of it.
Great.
So that's definitely gone up. How much risk you've been taking, I think I've gone up anyway in that area as well, just because we are putting ourselves out there to do more of what you've been teaching us. So I think that's the risk.
Mm-hmm.
Invested in the success for the whole group, I think it's kind of stayed the same because we really haven't had a whole lot of contact since our last meeting, so I'm not too sure how to answer that any other way.
Okay.
And the overall assessment, since we began, again, because of those points that I made earlier, I think that some are better and some are stayed the same.
Okay. Okay, got that. Thanks, Kelly. Thank you for jumping out there. Okay, Jennifer, how about you?
Well, I assessed myself on number one about a 2. I'm very much a creature of habit, living in my comfort zone. Invested in the success of the whole group. I think that with our team leader meetings, we're holding everybody accountable to do stuff and to get it done in a certain date. So I think we've improved there. And for my assessment on myself, I'm probably about the same as I was when I began.
Okay. Okay, I got that. And did you may have said it, I may have missed it, invested in the learning and the success of the whole group?
Oh yeah, I said with our team lead meetings and that we're all holding each other accountable at our meetings and getting things moving forward. I think that's
okay. So that one's a little, okay, got that. Thank you. All right, thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Brian, I think Gord wanted to say something.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now, John?
Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Gord.
Yeah, I definitely seeing the benefits with working with the different groups, and I think our project group, as an example, set up weekly meetings just to make sure they were moving things along. So definitely seeing some things from our meetings and things moving along. But for me personally, I guess I'm more at ease with definitely 4s kind of across the board. I'm definitely trying to adopt it. Definitely like the fact that we set 60 days and accountability to report back in, because it made me jump back on things to make sure we weren't letting the group down. But just overall, the having ease of dealing with some difficult situations or difficult conversations for things that aren't working, because whether it's being on the court or it's having those direct conversations, it's really helped me personally a lot.
Awesome. Thanks, Gord. It's really good. John, did I miss anybody else, or can we keep going?
I think you're good. Yep, unless anybody else has something.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, everyone. Now, wherever you're at, I don't know about you, but sometimes when I do a self-assessment and I'm lower than where I think I should be, then I feel depressed or I make myself wrong. So that's just a human reaction. It's normal. If you have that experience, maybe you don't have that experience. What I'm inviting you to do is remind yourself this is a 9-month journey. This is a journey that we're on. So this is a check-in. We do this deliberately so you can check in on February 27th, you know, where we're at. So I'm inviting you to elevate your level of participation. We're going to jump right in. And what we're going to do next is we're going to review some key distinctions. So we've given you tools, we've given you distinctions of what it takes to operate as a high performance team. So we're going to, John, I don't know if you can mute everyone except yourself and myself, but there's a buzz and some rustling of papers in the say, oh, I know this already. But if you do that, you'll rip yourself off from discovering what we're intending that you discover. So we're going to jump right in. And then we'll stop from time to time and we'll take some sharing. So we're reviewing what we covered on January 14th. We covered discovery learning. We gave you the opportunity to introduce one another as an opportunity to discover something new. We did a review of the key distinctions from our first session, which was back in November. We coached you on what it is to be present. We coached you on context is decisive. We had a conversation about are you on the court or in the stands. We introduced you to committed speaking. We coached you on accountability and responsibility and on authentic listening. So we're going to move through these and we're going to go through each of these 6 points in more detail. We're going to review the key distinctions and then we're going to stop and take some sharing. All right. So you may or may not remember that we had a conversation with you the first time we met you. And we said out of all the possible information, all the possible knowledge in the world, there's what you know that you know and what you know that you don't know. And we said that's in the domain of informational learning. And we said that the work that we do at the Leaders Circle is not giving you more information about how to become a better insurance broker or how to become better, give you more information. We don't dwell in that area. We work with giving you access to what you don't know. And we work with what we call transformational learning. That's where breakthroughs come in. That's where those aha moments come in. That's where you have a breakthrough. Oh, I thought I was great with customers, but I had no idea. I didn't know that I'm not listening really to people, as an example. So this is the background of the approach that John and I have been taking with you. We also said this is a journey, and usually when people participate in something like this, they have a pull to understand something. Brian and John, give me the answers. I don't understand that. What do you mean? And we said, no, that's not the approach we take. We want you to discover something. We want you to look. We want you to find out things. Look at what, Brian? Look at how you interact with one another. Look at what's already there for you when you interact. That's not possible because of this. Or what can I discover out of taking something newly on? And then we coached you as well on context. We said context is decisive. We've shown you this a couple of times now. In the context of numbers, this is 9. The context is carnival, that's a hoop or something. Music, it's a musical note. Context of color, it's blue. The context is geometry, it's a half a cylinder. Or sports, it's a basketball hoop. Or rodeo, it's a lasso. So we set, or automotive tools. So the context is decisive. As a high performance team, you're always being responsible for what's the context of a conversation you're having as well. You're not taking it for granted. Okay, and then we coached you as well on being present. And John's going to generate these next slides here as we remind you, and then we're going to take some sharing about what's opened up for you on being present.
So already always listening. And just get that, because sometimes it's important if everybody's using the same terminology, and sometimes it gets Was that the always, already? It's already, always listening. The internal dialogue has a pervasive nature to it that we call the already, always listening. To begin with, consider that all human beings are driven by a set of concerns. The concerns that drive human beings have been there since there have been human beings. Said another way, these concerns have always been there, are here right now, and will always be there. These concerns shape what the life of a human being is about. The question then is, what are the already, always concerns that are driving human beings? We're now going to propose that the fundamental concerns that drive human beings are, first, human beings are always dealing with who or what is right and who or what is wrong. Who or what is good and who or what is bad. What is true? What is false? Do I agree or disagree? How life should or shouldn't be. Why and how, because, in order to. What's the problem? Solution, answer. What's in it for me, her, him, them? Internal dialogue, the impact. Start getting it real in your life that all of that doesn't live out there with that person, but lives in your internal dialogue and already always listening, over which you have no say. The internal dialogue is not you talking to yourself, it is talking to you. It doesn't have to run the way you see life. Something amazing happens when you get present to the internal dialogue that makes up your listening. The more you get present to your own listening, the more the possibility of really listening to others opens up. Your access to being present. Your access to being present is simply to continue practicing listening to your own listening. Between now and when you return to work, get present to your own listening. Continue to notice how it impacts and constrains you in life. Why we start with this distinction in our engagement with you is because it requires a certain kind of listening to participate in a conversation for applying the new model of leadership into your life. To get the most out of today's session, and more importantly, how to get the most out of your life, you have to listen beyond your assessments, judgments, and analysis. To have today's session actually make the difference for you as a leader, you have to create a listening for what's possible. Sharing from the assignment. When we left our last session together, we left you with this assignment. Practice being present with one another. In other words, practice giving up looking good and avoiding looking bad. Taking this specific action you said you would take to interrupt your already always listening with person X.
Thank you, John. So John went over that in about 5 minutes. You may or may not remember, we spent about an hour and a half inside of what keeps you and I from being present. We had you do a closed eye exercise the first time. That ended up with you noticing that you were talking to yourself with your little voice about what kind of shampoo that you're using. We had you look on the court, and we had you look at who do you have an already always listening with and what's the impact on you. So now you've had some time to actually let this marinate. You've had some time to have already always listening be there for you. You've had a chance to practice being present. And we want to hear from several of you. What are you noticing specifically about this conversation? What are you noticing about internal dialogue? What are you noticing about interrupting your already always listening? What are you noticing about giving up looking good and avoiding looking bad? Who will share?
Hi there, it's Mark and Lisa in Thunder Bay. Can you guys hear us?
Perfectly. Thanks, Mark.
Oh, thank you.
So we've been doing we've been practicing being present with one another quite a bit. We made a promise to each other at the meeting in Kenora to have daily check-ins, and we've been keeping up with that and letting the other person know if we can't make it, and trying to reschedule and, not checking our phones or our emails while we're talking to each other.
Yeah, it was interesting because originally it was that 2 or 3 weeks until the next strat meeting, and then after that, I was thinking that, wow, we're meeting every day and we're having great discussions, and maybe we're doing this too often. So I changed it to weekly, and Lisa quickly said, no, we're doing this daily. And it's been really good. We've been able to read each other in terms of what we like, what we don't like. When we have disagreements, it's, we use it as a growing opportunity for each other to kind of look at ourselves, and we have some fun, heated discussions, but at the end of the day, it's that discovery on trying to do the right thing for each other and do the right thing for our teams.
Oh man, that is so great, guys. And Lisa, I acknowledge you, because I remember when you said that in the last course we were together, and you said, I'm going to hold you to account. We're going to have these meetings. So that's really great. Great on both of you that you didn't stop. It's about practicing and practicing and practicing. Really great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That practice with each other probably has an impact on your relationships and your ability to be present with others, customers or other people in your life, because you're practicing it so regularly, it becomes a muscle you use all the time. Are you noticing that it's actually having an impact outside other than just between the two of you?
I'm kind of take the bull by the horns kind of approach for things. So I don't notice the change as much because I just jump right in.
I guess to a certain point, like when I have a problem and Mark has a problem, we sort of run it by each other, and sometimes he'll give me a different way of looking at it or thinking about it, and I'll think, yeah, okay, maybe I could look at it that way as well. So, putting away my avoiding looking bad and just saying to Mark, like, I don't know what to do about this, or how do you see this? And the best thing is we can sort of have disagreements, but then, it all comes full circle anyway.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Thanks.
Well done. Who else? Someone else?
So this is Jerome from Kenora. What I'm trying to get more conscious of is when I'm in meetings with people or even other outside of the office and in the office, is try to walk away with a plan and try to be more on the court. So instead of hashing out the same things over and over and over again, let's hash it out once and deal with it.
Yeah.
So that's been more of a push that I've been working on personally.
Great.
And, been successful somewhat with it. I'm still working on it, but when you're done in the meeting, do we have a plan to deal with the problem? And if we haven't come up with that solution yet, well, then we haven't really accomplished anything.
Awesome. Yeah, and is that distinct for you, Jerome? Is that new?
Wouldn't be just me. If I'm meeting with someone, maybe someone else takes over the responsibility for dealing with it. But again, it's instead of talking about the same thing over and over and over again, let's stop talking about it and let's deal with it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Really great. Yeah, we're going to come up to with what you're pointing to with on the court in a few moments, and that's awesome to hear that. Thank you.
Okay.
Who else? And Jordan, thanks for driving there. That makes a difference with you zooming in and out. I appreciate that.
No problem. Got a fancy new camera, so we're trying it out.
Oh, so you're showing off, huh?
That's right. Can't go all the way around, unfortunately.
All right. Well, since we're there in Kenora, how about one more person in Kenora, just while you have that new camera?
I could speak up. I've noticed just dealing with, been a little more conscious dealing with clients. Sometimes you don't want to have the tough conversation, or you beat around the bush on why they're going to get an increase or whatever. And I've just sort of been a little more direct. We have the markets are tightening up and things, so I'm being a little more direct with them on reasoning why they're getting increases and why I'm not going to be able to remarket necessarily. You're a bad driver, or you have just had a 3-month suspension, so not really a good time to shop you around type of thing. So I think in the past I beat around the bush a little more.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's great to hear. Okay. All right. Okay. Good work, everyone. Good work. And keep practicing. It's not something that it's like one and done. And you want to keep practicing. being present and giving up looking good and avoiding looking bad. Okay. So now we're going to revisit another distinction we gave you, and that is on being on the court. Jerome brought that up a moment ago, on the court versus in the stand. Or are you in the stand? Or are you in the stands? And the being of being a leader and the actions of the effective exercise of leadership can be assessed or researched and taught either in the stands or on the court. So in the stands, your speaking has no impact. There's no risk. You're being and acting or observed and commented from in the stands, and observed by someone and then described, interpreted, and explained. It's a third person theory of something. It's theoretical. So if I am in Kenora and I see something that's going to impact Winnipeg office, and I don't say anything to the people that can do something about it, if I'm gossiping or talking to someone else in Kenora about it, I'm in the stands. It being in the stands makes no difference. It has no difference to actually impacting the outcome of something. So we're coaching you, given what you're up to, the culture you're out to create. It takes an on-the-court type of speaking and way of participating. And when you're on the court, you're speaking as 100% impact. You're totally at risk. You're outside that comfort zone. Your being and acting are actually experienced on the court, and these are actually actually lived their real time. It's the first-person experience of something. It's an ontological or phenomenological approach. Ontological means the way of being, the study of being, or phenomenological is how we perceived things. So it's that approach. It's not philosophical. It's not airy-fairy. It really is happening. It's on the court. And then we introduce you to, there's a type of speaking when you're on the court that's distinct from in the stands. So we were training you to start to notice if you're in those meetings. I love how Jerome brought that up. When you're in those meetings, is stuff happening? If stuff isn't happening, you're in the stands. And the in the stands type speaking is talking that refers to things over here on the on the right side, if you can see my my cursor. So in the stand speaking is when you're giving explanations or stories or justifications or sharing your opinions or reports or assessments, criticisms, judgments, reasons, or complaints. It's past-based, it's after the fact, it's circumstance determined. Now, committed speaking is an on-the-court speaking. This is talking that makes things happen. This is where action or there's an outcome happening. This is when you're in a meeting and you're making a promise. This is when you're in the meeting and you're making a request of somebody, or you're making an offer, or you're making a commitment. It's now-based or future-based. It's self-determined. You're not at the effect of the economy, or you're not at the effect of anything else. You have a say in the matter. Like an Olympic athlete, it's going to go this way because I say so. Committed speaking, on the court speaking, also is talking that makes things possible. It's your vision. We're going to be customer centric. That's a vision that you have. We're going to operate at a whole new level. That's a commitment you have about who you're going to be as an organization. It's a declaration or taking a stand, or you have a say. I say X is going to happen. It's self-determined. All right, so we want to give you an opportunity. What are you noticing about committed speaking distinct from descriptive speaking? What are you noticing from being on the court versus being in the stands? Who will share?
I think sorry, I'm going to try and turn the camera towards myself here.
Yeah, great, Jordan.
Used to it. No, wrong way.
Wrong way.
There we are.
Yeah.
I think specifically for myself, I found very similar to Jerome, at the end of a meeting, what are the actions we're going to take? When are they due by? Saying those things out loud, like Marcia, myself, and Brianna, we have our weekly strategy meetings, and that's something that we've definitely taken out of that, is just the
you know, making sure things are getting done, setting deadlines, saying, I'll have this by the next meeting, you know, and actually delivering on that. As far as, you know, the committed speaking and the integrity component, I mean, that's been such a big change for me is when I make that promise to someone and actually delivering on that has made such a difference for, and even just setting the example in my department, like if Stefan asks for something and I say, I'll get that to you by tomorrow, and then actually getting it to him by tomorrow, saying it shows, hey, look, you know, when I say I'm going to do something, I do it at that time. This is what I'm expecting as well. So it's been very powerful for me.
That's great, Jordan. That's really great. Thank you.
It's interesting to look too that when you make a declaration, it actually determines the actions you're going to take. You know, two people are going to run a marathon. One says, I really want to finish this marathon. I've never done one before. And someone else says, I've been third the last 5 times and I want to be first this time. Those declarations will create different activities, different actions that people will take. The declarations are really critical about standing for something that is important to you. And it will inform the actions that you end up taking.
I think the committed speaking too, like when, you know, Jordan says to Stefan that he's going to do something and then he does it, it also makes the other members of your team feel valued and listened to, and that's a big thing as well.
Yeah, I can't see who was speaking. Sorry.
Oh, it's Lisa.
Lisa. Okay, thank you, Lisa. Oh, there you are. Okay, thank you, Lisa. Yeah, Lisa, say a little bit more about that.
So when you ask, say, like, if I ask Jordan for something and he says, yeah, I'll get it to you by next week, and then here it is 2 weeks later and it's still not here, it also, you know, it doesn't make you feel very valued. So when he says something and then he follows up and actually does it, it makes your relationship better. So I would imagine that even when, you know, he's talking to members of his team, or I'm talking to members of my team, and I say, yes, let's talk about that tomorrow, and we do it, it just makes everything better all around. People feel valued and part of the team and don't feel ignored.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. We had a colleague of ours that took on tracking the effectiveness of their whole organization, moving from in the stand speaking to committed speaking. And what they did at their weekly meetings is they just tracked promises made and promises kept. And they actually saw from promises made to promises kept, they had 150% increase in their performance by taking this on. Now, you've got to be a very committed organization to take on that kind of a practice. Promises made, promises kept. Because you've got to be willing to take out, if you take this on, be willing to take out your reasons of why you didn't get it done. You've got to be willing to take out your stories or your explanations of why you didn't get something done. It literally is. Last week we promised we were going to do this, this, and this. And this week when we look at whether we did this, this, and this, we either did it or we didn't do it. And with our colleagues' organization, over a year, when they tracked it, they had 150% increase in measuring promises made and promises kept. And their revenue increased and their whole organization increased. So that's just something I was struck by as you were sharing, taking this on. Okay. Okay, we're going to move forward. And we want to now remind you that we introduced you to the 4 foundational factors of leadership. Factors of leadership that we're working with you on over this 9 months, starting up here with what it is being authentic is one. Being and acting consistent with who you hold yourself out to be for others and who you hold yourself out to be for yourself. Being a person of integrity is another foundational factor of leadership, being whole and complete. Being responsible, which is being caused in the matter of everything in your life as a stand you take for yourself and life and acting from that stand. And being committed to something bigger than oneself, the source of serene passion required to lead and to develop others as leaders, and the source of persistence when the path gets tough. So on January 14th and 15th, we worked with you on being authentic, we worked with you on being responsible, and we worked with you on being a person of integrity. For today, and then coming up in the future, we'll work with you on being committed to something bigger than oneself, but we haven't gotten into that one in detail. For today, we're going to focus on being authentic and being responsible. And on our next webinar, we'll get more into integrity. All right, so responsibility. We're going to review these key distinctions, and then we're going to take some sharing. All right, so John's going to represent what we mean by what it is to be responsible and what it is to be accountable.
Let's begin with the distinction being accountable. There are two fundamental aspects of how we distinguish being accountable. The first aspect is the person is expected to directly make it happen or directly see to it that it happens. The person is accountable for producing a defined result that will contribute to making real what Standard Insurance is up to in the world. This is the kind of result that wouldn't predictably just happen without someone being accountable for producing it. So when you're being accountable, you have the opportunity to triumph over whatever circumstances come your way and see to it that the result gets produced. And you make sure that the way the result gets produced is consistent with Standard Insurance's vision, mission, and core values. That's the first aspect. The person being accountable is expected to directly make it happen or directly see to it that it happens. The other fundamental aspect of how we distinguish being accountable, the person has given their direct promise for the result to the person to whom they are accountable. In your role at Standard Insurance, you report to and are managed by another person. That person is accountable for producing a particular set of results and is entrusting you with producing some aspect of those results. The two of you work together in the structure that we call committed speaking and listening. By making a promise, you committedly speak that you are 100% accountable for producing the result. By accepting your promise, the person supervising you becomes your committed listener. Your promise to your committed listener makes you 100% accountable for producing the result. But that doesn't mean that your committed listener is off the hook. He or she is still 100% accountable for seeing to it that the result happens. This structure allows for a unique kind of relationship to be created based upon accountability. And it creates a powerful clearing of space for speaking and listening, accountability to accountability. Your committed listener holds you to account for your promise and interacts with you in a way that empowers you in producing the result. Now, responsibility as a context for life. To perform at a high level, you must learn to master your functional constraints. In everyday language, the behavior generated by a functional constraint, sometimes referred to as a knee-jerk reaction. Psychologists sometimes refer to this behavior as automatic stimulus response behavior, where in the presence of a particular stimulus or trigger, the inevitable response is an automatic set way of being and acting. To master your functional constraints, you'll have to confront in yourself what you want others to confront, or you're going to be inauthentic. In other words, you have to take on the context of responsibility. Responsibility is required to master your functional constraints. Responsibility begins with the willingness to be cause in the matter. Ultimately, it is a stand or context from which to come to your circumstances or life. No one can make you responsible, nor can you impose responsibility on another. It is a grace you give yourself, an empowering context that leaves you with a say in the matter of life. I'm just going to read that last. No one can make you responsible. No one can make you responsible, nor can you impose responsibility on another. It is a grace you give yourself, and empowering context that leaves you with a say in the matter of life.
And then we have a couple of models that we showed you as well that we worked with you on, being responsible for your relationship. You may or may not recall that we said that normally when two people are in a relationship, or two branches have a relationship, or more than one person has a relationship with somebody else, it normally is I'll do my 50%, you do your 50%. Or I'll do 60%, you do 40, or I'm keeping track. Hey, I've done 90, you're only doing 10. And we said, as a place to stand, not the truth, the place to stand as we're distinguishing this foundational factor of leadership. What it is to be responsible for your relationships is you and you alone are 100% responsible. My relationship with Gary has nothing to do with Gary and what he said or what he didn't say. I'm 100% responsible as a place I'm standing. If it's not working, I'm standing and I'm causing the matter. I get to Gary. I get what I need. I take the actions to get something complete. I take the actions to find out what's not working in our relationship, distinct from talking behind his back, distinct from holding on to something from the past, distinct from being in the stands. So we said, what it is to be responsible for your relationships as a place to stand is you and you alone are 100% cause in the matter of everything that happens in your life. Not as the truth, as a place to stand. And then we summarized responsibility. We said what it is to be responsible is you're being cause in the matter of everything in your life as a stand you take for yourself and life and act from that stand. Most people, when they don't get something done, it's because. You have that term because. I couldn't get it done because of this. We're saying we're distinguishing being responsible as being cause in the matter where you are. Responsibility is a context for life. As a context for life, responsibility begins with the willingness to be cause in the matter. Most people are unwilling to be cause in the matter. Most of us grow up in a culture where it's because of this or justification or explanation. And then we introduce you to the ladder of self-responsibility and accountability. We said that normally people start off, if you are powerless, if you don't have full power, see if you can find yourself on one of these rungs of the ladder. Usually you're unaware or unconscious, then you get yourself up to you're blaming others, or you're hearing yourself or others say, I can't because. You get yourself up to wait and hope. If you're at any one of these three rungs, the bottom rungs of the ladder, you are powerless. We're coaching you to at least acknowledge reality. Reality is, my budget was this, or my sales target was this, and reality is I'm down here at that. And then you can get yourself up to owning it. Okay, it's mine. And then from there, you get yourself up to the rung of finding solutions. And then ultimately you get yourself up to the rung of you make it happen. When you're up there, then you are being accountable, as we're distinguishing what it is to be accountable. And when we worked with you, we actually had you identify a current area where you find yourself powerless, or where you find yourself at the bottom rungs of the ladder, and where you find yourself, hey, I'm blaming others, I can't, excuses, or waiting and hoping. And we ask you with a partner to start to look, what new actions are you committed to taking, and by when, that will demonstrate you being responsible and accountable, or at least to the acknowledged reality rung of the ladder. Okay, so John and I said a lot right there. We want to open it up, and especially for those of you that we haven't heard from yet. What do you want to share? What are you noticing? What are you discovering in this whole conversation about being responsible, being accountable, including Brian, I don't agree, or John, I don't get it. So who else, what else?
Hi, Derek here. I think just one thing about responsibility. I just got back from holidays. It's my first day back. Been away for a week, and I guess what I was trying to say is that while I was away, some things got done and some things didn't, and it's interesting. I think you need to have that culture in your office You know, if you're short-staffed, who can you rely on to step up and actually help out? And, you know, what you were talking about earlier about looking at something that's bigger than just yourself and what's good for the company. You know, should I be stepping up in this person's absence and helping out, or should I not? And, you know, trying to foster or create that culture in everyone would create a better company.
Okay, I got that. And Derek, if we dig deeper, is if you look at yourself, are you making someone else wrong at what didn't get done when you were on vacation?
No, because sorry, I don't understand what you're asking.
Okay, so you said some things got done and some things didn't get done when you were on vacation?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm asking is, what, if anything, do you see where you are about what didn't get done when you were on vacation?
I'm sorry, Brian. I really don't understand what you're asking. Like, what do you mean? Like, where do I? Can you say that again?
Yeah, I will. So let's get it on the court. What's something that didn't happen when you were on vacation?
Something to do with just a client needing some information, basically.
Okay, all right. And if I were to ask you why that didn't get done, how would you respond? What's your response? Why didn't that get done?
I think there's lots of reasons sometimes it doesn't get done in the insurance world. I think sometimes people don't want to take on responsibilities that are outside of their comfort zone because maybe they worry about, you know. I think also sometimes people just, you know, they're already at their max for workload or whatever. And also sometimes I think people, you know, if it's not their responsibility, i.e. that's not one of their accounts and they're not going to get paid on it if we do something, then they don't jump all over it.
Okay, so can you see my screen right now?
Yep.
Okay, so first of all, I didn't even ask you, but do I have permission? I'm intending to contribute something through coaching you with what you said. May I do that publicly?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, all right, just checking. So what you said that didn't get done, and a client didn't get some information that they were looking for. If you look for yourself, what rungs of the ladder are you at regarding that specific situation?
Well, now I need to own it. Now I need to come in and pick it up.
Okay, great. I can hear you owning it now. Where were you though?
I have to. I don't have an option.
Okay. You don't have an option. Okay. However, when you look at it, didn't get done. You were on vacation. Did you expect that it was going to get done?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you look, you had an expectation it was going to get done. What rung of the ladder are you at that it didn't get done and you had an expectation that it was going to get done?
Well, I'm at the blame others rung, I guess.
Yeah, very good. Very good. If nothing else, Derek, if you can actually see, okay, I can see now. I was expecting it to be done. Now I see it wasn't done, and I can hear myself. I was at the blame others. It's not wrong or bad. Now, out of seeing that, I got that you're now saying you're at the own it. However, I want you to be able to have power without making someone else wrong. I'm probing here. I know I'm pressing in with an intention that.
Yeah, well, I've already dealt with it this morning, trying to find solutions, and by this afternoon, I'll have made it happen because there's no other option but to make it happen.
Okay, got it. Now, is there anything you can see in hindsight that you could have done before you went on vacation? To be
trust less?
Pardon me?
Maybe I should trust less, which is not a good solution to that problem.
Yeah.
No, you know, there's nothing. I would have thought that this would have got taken. There's a few things that I thought would have got taken care of, and they didn't. So I need to maybe put it in writing. I expect this, and this to be done.
Okay.
Can you do that?
Okay. John, anything else you want to offer here?
Well, just what you said, Derek, then you're at the own it rung, because before you go away, if you're going to own it, then you're going to say specific things to people, have people be accountable for certain things, make a request, have them accept it. You know, that's being cause in the matter of having it taken care of in your absence, as opposed to just having an expectation, which is really wait and hope if you look at it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would, I would assume it gets done.
As you're talking, I'm thinking of some things myself, and I think a lot about the context and responsibility lately. So as I'm doing things, and sometimes I'm waiting for the ball kind of to bounce back to me on something, and then I think, no, like, you have to set the context or make sure it's really clear what the expectation is with the other person, because I think sometimes what my context is isn't necessarily what the other person, we're not on the same page. Like, it's not 100% clear because we didn't actually say the words. I assume that we're, talking about the same thing, and we're not.
There's always the assumption.
Yeah, so, when we talk about context, it reiterates that that's really important, is making sure we're looking at something in the same way for the same outcome. And then, the responsibility part, when I'm waiting for that ball to bounce back to me, no, I'm still 100% responsible. So, as you were talking, I'm thinking of a few things that, I need to go back to people and be like, no, I'm not just going to wait for them to get back to me. I need to go, I'm 100% responsible. I'm going to follow up. I'm going to send that email. I'm going to do that follow-up phone call. So that kind of helped me out today as you were talking.
Well, and John and Brian, I guess in Derek's scenario, being cause in the matter, he's still a cause in the matter. Now that cause in the matter may be that, okay, reflection on, okay, could I have communicated different? Well, if I don't think I could have communicated different, and it's a reasonable assumption that X and Y would have gotten done. My cause in the matter is that to look at it as a training opportunity so it doesn't happen again. Or do we have the right person in the right seat on the bus? Et cetera, et cetera. So I guess cause in the matter is not just on that individual situation, but cause in the matter to make sure that you solve the issue and it happens in the future.
Right on. Absolutely. And thanks, Gord. And Nicole, I acknowledge the way that you were listening and you jumped in there looking for yourself too, Nicole. Thank you for that. Derek, anything else for you?
Nope.
Okay.
I just have to make it happen now.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. All right.
I just wanted to say, sorry, I'm trying to figure out this camera again. From a customer's perspective, I find like when I deal with vendors, if they fail, but if they own it, the salesperson owns it, I'm much more forgiving. If someone doesn't, we're waiting on some computers right now that are back ordered, but the sales rep actually called me on my cell phone. He said, "There's nothing we can do about it, but this is on us. Like we don't have stock." And, I'm very forgiving if someone's owning the situation. So it's just something interesting to think of.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Jordan. Okay. Move this. We're going to move into the last distinction here that we're going to review today. It is on being authentic and a specific aspect of being authentic. So being authentic, to remind you, we said that we distinguish being authentic as being and acting consistent with who you hold yourself out to be for others and who you hold yourself out to be for yourself. So I hold myself out to be someone who's committed to other people experiencing their greatness. And when I'm crappy with somebody else, whether it's at Tim Hortons or whether it's with my daughter or whether it's with John, when I'm not leaving someone bigger out of a conversation with me, then I'm being inauthentic. It impacts me. So we're coaching you to actually get in touch with, well, who is it that you hold yourself out to be? Who is it that you hold yourself out to be as an individual? Who is it that you hold yourself out to be as an organization? And are you being true to that? So in this conversation that we're going to look at here in a moment again, we're getting into the distinction being authentic, being and acting consistent with who you hold yourself out to be for others and who you hold yourself out to be for yourself. However, we're only looking at a sliver of it in this conversation. We're looking at authentic listening. And John's going to represent the work we did with you on authentic listening, and then we'll take some sharing on that. Okay.
Inventing ways of listening. While most people work on what they're going to say in a conversation, hardly anyone does the work to invent how they themselves will listen or do the work to determine what others are already listening for. We unknowingly walk into a conversation with our own particular way of listening and simply get what we get, and then sometimes blame the speaker for what we did or didn't get, or even argue with them about what they actually said. The listening is critical to the effectiveness of a conversation. If your intention for a conversation is to accomplish something specific, it is vital that you create a way of listening that is consistent with that accomplishment, and also be attentive to where others are listening from. Our listening. What we mean by listening refers to the phenomenon, the conversation that you are having with yourself. The conversation you're having with yourself is always there. For the most part, you're not present to it. That is, you're not aware of it as an ongoing, never-ending conversation with yourself. Aware of it or not, it shapes how you see the world and what you see, including your view of other people and even of yourself. Observing or paying attention to the conversation you're having with yourself provides an access to your worldview and where you are being functionally constrained.
So another way of saying what John just said is, listening also refers to the phenomenon, the conversation you're having with yourself. If you look at who you're being on the call today, if you're having a conversation with yourself that, oh, what I have to say isn't as great as what someone else said, you are not authentically listening. It's impacting you. You say on the one hand that you're here to learn and grow. However, the conversation you're having with yourself is, I shouldn't speak up. I don't have anything to contribute. Or I don't agree, but you're not actually saying it out here. So it's critical that you also get that authentic listening is the conversation you're having with yourself, noticing that it's always there. However, for the most part, we don't observe that it's always there. So observing and paying attention to the conversation you're having with yourself, it gives you an access to your worldview, and it gives you an access to where you're being functionally constrained. Because when you're talking to yourself, oh yeah, I know it already, but you are missing what's actually being said. So we're going to put up a slide here in a moment. We gave this slide to you, showed it to you before, and just read it silently to yourself, please. You may or may not remember when we put this slide up, nobody actually read it for what it actually said. I asked who could say what that was, and we got all kinds of things. And most people for the first time did not get it. It says bird and the hand, XXX, Paris and the spring, XXX. A silly example about how you and I don't authentically listen to what's being said. Somebody says something, oh, they're attacking me again. Customer walks in, you get on the phone, oh, here we go again, like that. So what's called for is a breakthrough in communication. And we're going to summarize now what we mean by what it takes to listen authentically.
Summarizing what it is to listen authentically. To listen authentically is to listen with no evaluations or judgments about what the speaker is saying. Letting the speaker say everything they have to say until they have nothing else to say about what they're saying. And listening without even any subtle resistance to what they are expressing, like some opinion in your listening that you have about the person speaking, or adding anything in your listening to what they are saying, or you're being, I already know what you're saying, and with no listening from it's merely what's real for them. That is, listening so as to leave the speaker not only heard and understood, but with the experience that he or she has actually been gotten and is complete. Remember that you are neither agreeing nor disagreeing. Rather, you are recreating where you are what is so where the speaker is. Listening. The power of authentic listening is not limited to being able to leave people you are listening to complete and with some emptiness where something was stuck. Listening to recreate also leaves you, the leader, with a perspective to add to your own that may well give you a better grasp of the situation with which you are dealing. And in addition, probably with some useful, if not critical, information that would not have been available to you employing our usual default listening. People who would otherwise be good leaders fail as leaders when they lack access to the wisdom of the people they are leading. At the very least, you have some access to what causes the people you are listening to have the views, opinions, positions, rationalizations, justifications, and judgments that they have had. What you gain from others with this kind of listening leaves you more aware of the reality with which you will need to deal. Authentic listening. Authentic listening includes focusing or directing your listening to discover something new, listening with no evaluations or judgments, listening so as to leave the speaker not only heard and understood, but with the experience that he or she has actually been gotten and is complete. Listening without resistance. I already know what you're saying. On the court. Oh, sorry, Brian.
Sorry, John. So we want to now give you some people again. I'm encouraging people who haven't shared yet. What are some recent examples of you authentically listening? Nadine or Deborah?
I don't think I have like an exact example, but I know that I'm definitely trying, when I go in to help somebody, to stop and realize that they've asked me to come and help them for a reason. So I need to put aside what I may think that they're going to be coming to me about and, why they're doing it, and just actually pay attention and give them what they're asking me for.
Great, thank you. Deborah, how about you?
Yeah, I just find with the authentic listening, the more I do it, the more of a habit it's becoming. You just instantly start letting go of everything you're doing or thinking, and truly, like you say, just actually listening to what they're saying. Great,
thank you. Pina, how about you? What are you getting out of authentic listening, or what are you noticing or bumping up against?
What I found very amazing was I was at a conference in Montreal for our aerial applicators, and so there were seminars and there was presentations that numerous people did. And what I found actually was comical was how much not listening there was when people in the audience had questions and certain individuals answered it in a roundabout way. And I found that it was actually comical that people don't want to answer questions directly. But after the fact, when I had finished my presentation, I was actually complimented by one of the board members at keeping my presentation specifically to what I needed to present and what I needed to answer. So I really feel that this whole procedure that we're doing with this leaders group has really helped me focus and listen. I really found a difference for myself.
Brilliant. Great. Thank you, Pina.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. All right, everyone. So just in summarizing, here's what we've reviewed: the work that we did on January 14th, and then we've reviewed those conversations on this call today. And I want to give a couple of people an opportunity. What else are you getting out of any of the work we've been doing? Or it could be, you could share something that you're getting out of being on this call today. So who will say?
I'll say.
Yeah, great, Eleanor.
I think it's good that we are reviewing what we already did, because listening to it just once is I don't think necessarily enough.
Mm-hmm.
And authentically listening is easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
That's my two things I've come away with today.
Brilliant. Thanks, Eleanor.
I'd like to say something too.
Yes, Sharon.
The authentic listening is hard, but knowing that it is really important to do.
Yeah.
So what I'm finding is that if I get so many interruptions during the day, and it's staff coming to me, they obviously have something to say. And the days that I feel like, well, I've got just too much to do to stop, then I have to just sort of like make if I close my door, then I know that I can concentrate on what I'm doing without the interruptions. Because then if I feel like if I can't authentically listen, then it's not fair to them.
Mm.
So with the open door, they come in, then I know I have to stop and listen. But if there's times when I have to do things and I close my door, then they know, I'll come to her later.
Mm-hmm.
That helps me so that I can truly concentrate. Authentic listening.
Awesome. Thank you.
And that's something we discussed in Dryden as well, is being able to say that to other staff that come into your office. If it's, not something that needs to be dealt with right away, and you, like you say, Sharon, you're too busy, and you just say to them, like, can we discuss this later? Instead of not authentically listening to them, we can just take it and do it another time.
Yeah, great, Deborah. Thank you.
I was just going to say that it was nice to kind of revisit this again, because as much as we were committed to doing all this and the authentic listening, over some time it kind of does fall to the side as your life kind of picks up and work responsibilities and that. And so it was really good as a refresher to kind of reignite myself kind of to this and kind of recommit myself back in. Because I did find that I was slipping away from it. And so this is just a way to kind of just re-energize ourselves back on this. And I'm looking forward to like the monthly sessions going forward on this, because I think that's going to keep us accountable and keep us really engaged and moving this and keeping it top of mind as we go forward.
That's great, Marcia. And everyone, that's gold. That's why we designed this, and at the top of the call, John reminded you, it's a 9-month engagement. The experts say that what it takes to create a new habit is doing something over 7 weeks, I've heard, doing the same things over 7 weeks before it becomes habits, becomes new habits. So this is going to take more than only our calls. We're going to continue to have our calls. We want to remind you of what we left you with last time as well, and that is how to bring this all back and keep it on the court. And it's going to take practice, practice, practice. And practice is to do something again and again and again. I love how Mark was sharing that what they're doing, he and Lisa, Mark wanted to move it to once a week. Lisa said, no, we're going to do it every day. And they're doing their check-in. That's practice, practice, practice. You may recall that we coached you. We gave you an opportunity on January 15th to get into buddy groups. How are you going to keep this alive in your individual branches? How are you going to keep it alive when John and I aren't around? And the following steps are what we recommend you each take on in order to fulfill on what you're committed to. Create 1 and no more than 2 new practices you'll do at least 5 times a week. I know that could sound a lot. You're asking me to take something on every 5 times a week, every day? Yeah, we are. Between now and our next session, between now and when we're together on March 22, create, for example, at every morning meeting, I'll do X. Or example, each time I speak with a customer or coworker, I'll do X. Or example, before I walk into work, I'll do X. And then our coaching is you put your new practice into existence. You schedule it in Outlook or whatever you use, put it in your calendar, create specific ways you'll hold one another accountable. So, and it does make a difference. I do remember Lisa saying and Mark saying when we were together that they were going to do that practice. So I now want to give some people an opportunity, make a difference. You can make a declaration now in the listening of your colleagues. Marcia said, you know, hey, it was good to have the refresher. It reminds me. Eleanor said, you know, it was a lot to take in the first time. It's good to hear it again. So now what are you going to do between now and March 22? What can you actually declare to John and I, or what can you declare to your colleagues you're going to take on as a practice? Who will say?
Oh, there you go.
It's Nancy. I'm going to sit with Marcia and find out what I missed on the 14th and 15th.
All right.
I missed a lot.
Great.
I'm going to commit to, it's Gord. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Gord.
I'm going to commit to meeting with Marcia on a weekly basis, one-on-one, to keep more in touch with our strategies. Yeah, I think that's what's missing for me so far.
Okay, great. Thank you. Brianna, how about you? Including, could be something you have been practicing, or it could be a new practice.
One of the things I've been practicing is actually scheduling work time. So making sure that I have time for meetings and time to get work done.
Great.
And that's one of the things I took from Jordan. It was Jordan's actually. It's great.
Awesome. Thank you. Janice, how about you? I don't remember what your practice was, but I remember you had a big one you made when we were together last time.
Well, I've done, again, just with the teams, trying to change the agenda for my team lead meetings, putting dates on there. One of my team members is excellent at keeping me accountable, and I thank her for that. One of the things I find that I'm struggling with a little bit is Kenora, my team here, might know exactly what I'm going on, but my team leads don't know that, boom, this is what I was planning to do from this week to this week, because it was kind of an important piece of the puzzle. But I just need to let them know, okay, guys, if you can't get in touch with me, this is kind of what I'm doing. This is where I'm sitting. Again, communication is a huge thing. So if they know exactly from me that I've left the stands, I'm standing in the courts, it just makes it a better team communication all the way around.
Great. Thank you, Janice. And everyone, as a reminder, John and I are available too. I know that if you get stopped or stuck, or if you have something you want to work out that you're dealing with, you can send us an email. We can schedule a one-on-one call as well. So that's available to you. Okay, John, you want to wrap us up and bring us home?
Yeah, I just had one thing I wanted to leave you with on the authentic listening, because as leaders of people, there's a couple paragraphs in it that talk about the fact that if you authentically listen to someone without judgment, you may discover what's behind the way they think. And so sometimes when somebody comes in and says something to you and you go like, well, that's just wrong, you know? But if you just authentically listen to them, lose the judgment about the fact that they're wrong, and listen to where they're coming from. Why do they have the opinion they do? Because that's what you really end up having to deal with. And by authentically listening to people, you actually get what's behind the complaint, the judgment, the opinion that they have, so that you can deal with it at the core. So I think that's just something that we don't present sometimes enough. And I'm sure if you look, you'll see where you've been authentically listening to someone in your organization, and you start to understand what's behind it, because you set aside the judgment. So that's just something to think about. To me, it's important. It's very important when I'm working with CEOs. That's probably one of the fundamental things we talk about. I know they're wrong. It's not the point. you have to listen behind to see what's behind it. And that's a tougher one sometimes, because you already know that what they're saying doesn't make sense. So we're together again, as Brian said, on March what was it, Brian?
22nd.
Yeah, March 22nd. And it will be different, but in the same context, it will be a review of some of the things that are going on. And Marcia, that was so brilliant that you pointed that out, because the reality is that this just doesn't become a daily practice and a way of being until you've reviewed it over and over and over again. There are things you'll pick up every time. If you listen newly when we're doing this work, you'll pick things up that you didn't pick up last time. You'll get more grounded in it. It'll become more natural over time. So it is important to have these reviews, if you will. And there will be some new information as we move forward too, especially when we get together in April for our 2-day session, April 30th, May 1st. There'll be a little bit of review, but there's going to be a lot of new information there too. And then we'll work on that in the webinars following. Anybody else? Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in. I think Kelly's got something too. Kelly, did you have something?
I just wanted to mention to Janice with our date on March 22nd, we've got full day training that day, so I'm not sure that day will work. Janice, are you there?
Yep. We'll, is it all day long on the 22nd that we're involved?
Just an hour and a half.
It's just an hour and a half, Kel, so I think it's just in terms of scheduling your Wawanese, because it's only half, splitting up the team half and half, so just try to put yourself in the session that we're not in here with. That make sense?
It does. Nadine and I are also brokers too, so we will have to see how that will look.
And again, if it's
recorded too, the session.
Yeah, and if we need another session with Wawanesa, I'll get you another session with Wawanesa.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. And so you two are going to work that out. That's going to, okay. One other point to make, although it might be obvious, although we are reviewing some distinctions we gave you when we were together Jan 14 and 15, and we're going to be together on March 22. What's distinct is you're not going to be in the same space you were on March 22nd. So we are counting on you going out, make some mistakes and try things on and blow things up. And man, I tried to be cause in the matter and I made a mess. Or I tried to go into that meeting and practice authentic listening and it did not go well. So when you bring that to March 22nd, then we hear from you and we can coach you and we can expand and have this be real in your lives. Not being in the domain of information, but in the domain of transformation, having you get this into the fabric of how you operate together. Okay. Gord, anything else for you before John makes closing comments?
No, hello?
Yep.
Hello? No, definitely taken lots of notes again, hence the importance of the follow-ups and the meetings, because I think every meeting you learn and you reflect, and the reason why we felt like a 9-month engagement was necessary. But definitely as we go along this stage, there's learning, and it highlights for me too the time I need to spend with some of our people. So I think it's great. Another great touch-in. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gord. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate this group. It has been amazing to work with because you're all present every time. It's very rare that anybody misses any part of what we do. And that you're really great at sharing your experiences, what you're getting that doesn't make sense. You're open with us because that's the only way that you'll learn and that we can actually deliver what you need by having this conversation. But I really want to recognize you for being here, because I know it takes time out of your day, and to have this entire group be present every time is phenomenal. And it's you're already high performers, that's clear. So that's how we engage with you. You're already at the top of the game. How do we move you up a little bit further? And I hope it's working there. We will see you again on March 22nd. And I guess that's it. You've got the invitation, so we'll see you then. Have a great rest of your day and keep authentically listening.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Can you stop the record?